Chat. I'm your boyfriend, George. Welcome to the program. The Edge is in the red chair tonight. Edge is going to be, how exciting is that? Adam Copeland, Humber grad, community college, took radio broadcasting. Just happened to go on to be the WWE champion. What a run. And because I love you and I care for you, I'm going to let him try to give me an electric chair drop kick. Try. But I'm just too fast. I'm just too fast. To all of you in the East, Toronto, that's snow. Wasn't me. Wasn't me. But whatever you said out there to piss God off, she or he, we already know how moody and vengeful they are, have hammered down on us. Cut it out, whatever you're doing. Speaking of almighty beings, happy birthday, Don Cherry. 80 years old today. He is... You gotta know that a guy who spends most of his life saying, good Canadian boy, he's gotta love celebrating the big 8-0 in Russia, which is where he's celebrating. Ron McLean tweeted this today. Grapes in a Sochi, safe and sound. Well, safe. That's awesome. Celebrating a birthday with his buddy. Strangely enough, when I woke up this morning and I saw all the snow had been plaid colored, I figured that's why it was. Even, you know, that's how... No, nobody, not at all. Cool. Let's deal with today, shall we? All right. Right off the top, we do have some big news from Sochi. U.S. snowboarder Shaun White has dropped out of the slopestyle event. A Flying Tomato has said niet to this event. I don't even know if he knows what niet means, but I'm assuming in the translation he knew. It's a big deal. Dude is basically like the Michael Jordan, the Pele, the Haley Wickenheiser of snowboarding. Plus, slopestyle is making its debut in Sochi. He's the pride of Salt Lake City, two-time gold medalist, holds the X Games record for most golds ever, so what gives, brah? Why are you hitting the boo-hoo-hoo button? All right, he did injure his wrist, that is true, when he was practicing on Tuesday, and the height of the jumps in Russia have been cited as worrisome. Even Shaun himself called the course a little intimidating, and a lot of people have said these hills might be a bit dicey. But you're Shaun White. You're Shaun White. Is it the course you're afraid of, or is it this guy? The madman of the mountain. Or, as I change the pronunciation, the phenomenon from Saskatchewan. Canada's Mark McMorris. Mark is still competing, even though this happened to him at the X Games.
To the top spot, of course, we still have Torstein Hogmo with one more event. Oh, no! Mark McMorris hits the rail hard.
Do you know what happened when he hit that rail with his rib? He broke his rib. He broke it. And he's still competing. Other people are giving Shaun a hard time, too. Here's a snowboarder tweet. Sebastien Touton said this, Mr. White, it is easy to find excuses to pull out of a contest when you think you can't win. Boy, it's getting nasty out there. Although in the spirit of fairness, Shaun White, would you mind meeting me on the You May Be Right cam? We're mostly making fun because we do think that everybody's afraid of competing against a couple of Canadians, including Mark McMorris, but you might be totally right because that other guy from Norway, you know, the guy with the awesome name, Torstein Hogmo, out with a broken collarbone from the Sochi course, and people are saying that this hill is too high. By the way, the first time in history where anybody in snowboarding complains about being too high. If you stay up. If you can muster to stay up for another hour and a half, you can watch Mark McMorris in the men's slope style qualifiers. CBC.ca/Olympics is streaming that at 1 o'clock in the morning. Then stay up for Spencer O'Brien and the women's at 5 o'clock in the morning. I know you have a job, but what could be cooler than this? Meanwhile, back here in Canada, they're watching you. Oh, I don't mean the snowboarders. Oh, yeah. You know, America talks about the NSA. You know, the NSA has the ability to track pretty much anyone in the country. Well, CSEC, or the Communications Security Establishment Canada, also has the ability to track your movements through something called metadata. We're hearing all about this metadata now. Some people going, hey, they want metadata. And somebody going, oh, metadata is not so good. Now, Ontario's Privacy Commissioner wants metadata declared off limits. Metadata, if you need to know, is the first level. It's where you called, you know, where you were when you made the call, and who you called and where they were when they called. It's like when the Predator was stalking Arnold Schwarzenegger. He could see the warm, glowy outline without some of the details. That's metadata. Doesn't seem pretty scary, but it's the Predator. The second level is actually the content. You know, so the details of the conversation. That's not what they're talking about. Metadata doesn't include the content of the conversation. That stuff is more like when you go through the new airport security scanners and they can see all your hickeys. Okay, so, by the way, well placed. Yesterday, we told you about that ATM thing, you know, to cap your fees at 50 cents a transy that the NDP put up in an opposition day. Well, they voted. The NDP, the Liberals, the Greens, and the Bloc all voted for the motion so that the banks couldn't continue to gouge you with these weird service charges that we can't explain. Conservatives, they voted against. Tories win, 147 to 129. That's what makes a majority a majority. And I get it, right? Because if you think about the cores of conservatism, is keeping government away from consumer markets, which is sort of code for letting business do what they want and let the market bear what the market will bear. But there is something odd about a conservative government running ads bragging about how they're sticking up for consumers in the wireless industry, but not sticking up for consumers with the outrageous bank machine fees. It was supposed to be a part of the secret budget that was coming out during the Olympics on February the 11th. What budget? No budget. So next Tuesday, when the budget comes out, you need to act surprised. You got to go like, oh, budget? Really? Oh, you shouldn't have. No, seriously, you shouldn't have. It's expected to be pretty bare bones so that the next budget, which we here on the show are, I think, catchily titling the election budget as sexy as possible, you get a tax credit. You get a tax credit. It's like when you planned a trip to go to Mexico, but you can't really afford to go to Mexico, so you cancel your cable and spend 6 months eating only tuna. In the end, no one remembers your breath when you were on that tuna diet. They just remember those great shots of you in a bikini in Mexico. It's the same thing. Anyway, oh, I can't unsee that. I can't unsee that. It is not uncommon for votes to fail. This has absolutely no bearing on Canada, but I wanted to share it with you anyway. There's a guy called Rob Andrews. Rob Andrews, U.S. representative, just retired from Congress after 23 years in Congress. Why does Rob stand out? Rob's got a hell of a legacy. 646 bills proposed. He proposed 646 bills while he was in Congress for 20 plus years. Do you know how many of those bills turned to law? 0. So take a lesson, kids. If at first you don't succeed, try 645 more times. And then quit. You know, with a record like that, he could be coaching the Buffalo Sabres. That's your debrief. Yesterday on the program, we showed you this really cool video message preempting and promoting tolerance, really, and equality in the Sochi Games. It was really funny. You know, the Olympics were always a little bit gay, and it was this two-man bobsled kind of going back and forth. Very fun. It's on Stroumboulopoulos.com if you want to see it. Today we want to inspire you with something else. Very cool. It's not focusing on what's not there. It's focusing on what's there. And that's the message from the Canadian Paralympic Committee. And it blows away preconceived notions. It's just a lot of it. It's just so great. Watch this commercial.